long before the rise of the Iron Throne, before the dragons of Valyria danced in the skies, and before the names Stark, Lannister, or Targaryen were ever spoken. The vast continent of Westeros was a realm of untamed magic. It was a pristine, primeval world, and it did not belong to humanity. Westeros was originally inhabited by a diminutive, non-human race known as the Children of the Forest. They were aboriginal and few in number. But what they lacked in population, they made up for in their profound connection to the land. They were master woodcrafters. They built no great cities of stone, nor did they forge metal. Instead, their wise men, the Greenseers, wielded powerful, ancient magic. They lived in harmony with the vast woodlands, worshipping the sacred weirwood trees that bore silent witness to the centuries. But 12,000 years ago, the isolation of Westeros was broken. A new species arrived. From the eastern continent of Essos, the first humans migrated across a massive land bridge known as the Arm of Dorne. They were a bronze-wielding, expansionist people, known to history as the First Men. Their arrival marked the violent end of the Old World and the beginning of the Dawn Age. The First Men brought with them a concept entirely foreign to the Children of the Forest: conquest. They began encroaching on the deep woods, cutting and clearing massive tracts of land to fuel their agriculture and build their ring forts. In their ignorance, the First Men brought their axes to the children's sacred weirwood trees. This sacrilege infuriated the children. They would not watch their gods be turned into timber. And so, they fought back. This sparked a brutal, continent-spanning conflict that would last for 2,000 years. It was an asymmetrical war. The Children of the Forest were never numerous, and they possessed no advanced technology. They fought with blades and arrowheads chipped from obsidian, dragon glass, and wore armor woven from bark and leaves. Against the bronze swords, heavy shields, and sheer numbers of the First Men, they were completely outmatched. In physical combat, the First Men slaughtered them. Many of the children believed their race was doomed to extinction. But the children were fierce, desperate fighters who knew every root and shadow of their woods. And they possessed one distinct advantage that the First Men could barely comprehend: magic. The Greenseers unleashed the fury of nature itself, summoning beasts of all kinds: direwolves, snow bears, and massive flocks of ravens, to tear into the ranks of the invaders. But even the wrath of the wild was not enough to turn the tide. Driven to the brink of annihilation, the Greenseers gathered to perform a feat of magic so devastating it would forever alter the geography of the world. They called upon the oceans. Using their most powerful magic, they shattered the Arm of Dorne. The ocean rose up in a cataclysmic flood, swallowing the land bridge whole. All that remained were a few jagged, rocky islands, forever after known as the Stepstones. It was a terrifying display of power, but it was too late. The destruction of the Arm cut off the route from Essos, but millions of First Men were already established in Westeros. Their bloody advance continued northward. As the human tide pushed north, the children attempted one last geographic cataclysm to halt their advance. Once again, they called upon the Hammer of the Waters to shatter Westeros in two at its narrowest point, the neck. But this time, the magic fell short. The children only succeeded in flooding the land, drowning the region in endless bogs and treacherous swamps. The continent remained connected. Desperation breeds dark solutions. At some point during this endless war, a faction of the children decided on a horrific new deterrent. Utilizing a dark, untested magic, they captured a soldier of the first men. They bound him to a weirwood tree, plunged a dagger of dragon glass into his heart, and created the first White Walker. They sought to weaponize these former humans to turn the tide of the war. But magic is a sword without a hilt. There is no safe way to grasp it. The White Walkers broke free from the control of their creators, disappearing into the frozen wastes of the land of always winter, waiting for their time to strike. Finally, after 2,000 years of mutual slaughter, the two sides fought to a standstill. Exhausted by centuries of bloodshed, humanity and the children realized that if the war continued, there would be nothing left to conquer, and no one left to survive. Representatives of both races met on a remote island in the middle of a great lake known as the God's Eye. There, they forged a treaty that would define the continent. It was simply known as the Pact. The terms were clear. The vast open lands, the plains, mountains, and coasts, were granted to humanity. The deep forests were to remain the undisturbed domain of the children. Most importantly, the first men swore never to cut down a sacred weirwood tree again. To seal the treaty, the children carved faces into every weirwood tree on the island, so the old gods could witness the peace. Forever after, it was known as the Isle of Faces. Against all odds, the pact worked. The Dawn Age ended, and the Age of Heroes began. This peace would endure for an astonishing 4,000 years, weathering even the terrifying invasion of the White Walkers during the Long Night. But peace is rarely eternal. 6,000 years ago, a new fleet of ships appeared on the eastern horizon. The Andals had come. Bearing weapons of castle-forged steel and the fanatical fire of a new religion, they would sweep across Westeros, conquering the first men, slaughtering the remaining children of the forest, and burning the weirwoods to ash. But that is a story for another time.